Well, hello again, everyone. It occurred to me that as long as I'm driving all the way down to Valdosta, I may as well be efficient and interview as many people as possible. Before lunch, I had a great visit with Rusty Ingram, and now I'm excited to talk with Bobby Hopkins. Honestly, I'd never heard of Bobby until Gus Pursley suggested I interview him as part of this oral history project, and then Rusty was able to get us connected and arrange for Bobby to come over today. Bobby, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to drive to Valdosta and to meet with me today. And if you would just, and I know you're kind of shy, you're a little bashful, but if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, before you dive into concrete. Just tell us about Bobby.
Okay, let me think for just a minute here. I'll get myself organized here. I was in the concrete business for 52 years, and I think a whole lot of Georgia Redi-Mix Concrete product. It's a good organization. There's a lot of good folks in it. We made just like a big family. We all helped each other and made ways go. I worked for a fellow in Waycross named Mr. Pafford. He owned an asphalt plant, construction company, concrete company. In high school, I worked for him in the afternoons or weekends. Anyway, after I went to college and came back, and I went full-time with him, and I wasn't much in the construction part, so he put me over to the concrete division. And I stayed there in and out of college, and then when I got through and got married, I went full-time with Mr. Pafford, and I don't know how to explain all this, but we sold out, or I didn't sell out, he sold out to Tarmac back in, I can't remember the year, and I ran the operation for Tarmac. The funny thing about it, I was only losing $135,000 a year, and I got bonuses for that. And I ain't figured that out yet, but I didn't say anything. They was bringing their materials out of Miami, where it's spending a whole lot more money, but anyway, that was their business. And then they offered the business to me, and I bought it back from them with Mr. Pafford's help.
What year was that, Bobby? Can you remember?
I got to think. I can't remember, 90.
In the maybe early 90s or?
Late 90s.
Late 90s, yeah. Okay.
And then when I got it back, I had to have some money, and I asked Mr. Pafford to help me out, and he did help me out. And then I got his son-in-law involved, which I didn't need, but I got him. And then after about 10 years of that, I decided to retire at 70 years old, and I promoted to sale and sold to Rusty Ingram. Strokes Concrete was a good move. They're good folks.
So you are a native of Waycross. Tell us about growing up in Waycross.
I grew up in Waycross. I played on the 1960 football team that we were the #1 football team, high school football team in the United States, and we on YouTube.
No kidding.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Then I went and played some college ball, and I didn't like that too much. They have too much control over you. I never finished school, but I was right at the door. But anyway, my whole family, I'm the only non-graduate in college. I made more money than any of them, so it worked out good. I have 2 kids. I have a son who's a dentist, and I have a daughter who's a retired school teacher, so I've been blessed. And I got a great wife. I've been married 59 years.
Wow.
And only success is that I just said yes, ma'am, every time.
Now you were actually, you were involved in the association. Tell us a little bit about how the involvement that you had in the Concrete Association.
I served on the board for 4 or 5 years, and then I was promoted or asked to serve as president, and I did so. I think it was 94, 95, 96, somewhere along in there. And I enjoyed that very much. It's, like I say, a good organization. I highly recommend it.
Do you have some, can you tell me, do you remember who were some of your colleagues back in those days, some of the folks that were on the board with you or that come to mind?
Well, Roy Keck was there. I remember him, and Gus Purvis. Gosh, I'm getting ready to turn 80 years old. I have a hard time remembering what I had for breakfast. So let me think a few more minutes.
Let's see, was Russ Harmon?
Russ Harmon was there, yeah.
And let's see, who else? Was Buddy Pittard?
Buddy was kind of on the way out when I got in there, and I played some golf with Buddy, and he's a fine guy. And Ken Williams. I need a list. Should have brought my book with me.
That's okay. This was a spur of the moment deal, so you didn't have a chance to even really collect your thoughts.
There's a lot in concrete people don't understand. It's more than you can believe.
Well, let me ask you, back when you were in the thick of it in the business, what are some of the real challenges that, as you look back, the things that really either maybe kept you up at night or gave you concern? What would you say?
Well, the first thing that hits my mind is these amateur concrete finishers that have no clue what they're doing, and of course it's always the producer's fault. Concrete never works right when you don't do it right, and so I always called it just like a lady. You got to treat her right to make it work. But like I say, there's a lot to it. If you go to the Concrete Association, we've got the people to help you and get you in the right direction, and that's the way to go.
Who were some of the, you mentioned, was it Mr. Palford? Was that?
H.M. Palford was the owner of the company I started with. He came in one day and says, I bought an airplane. You're going to be the pilot. You got to fly it. So I flew all the company trips and everywhere. That's just one of the perks.
Oh, you actually were a pilot?
Oh, yeah. Just for the company.
What do you remember? What was the airplane? Do you remember?
It was a Skylane 182.
Right.
I was flying into Atlanta there, and one day I was taxiing in between two 747s, and I said, hey, Captain up there, you need to wash the bottom of this airplane. And he said, that ain't my job. And I said, well, you better be, because you make half that job before it's over with. We had a good time.
Are there any other, looking back over 50 years in ready-mix, people that were really influential in your career? Can you talk, of course, Mr. Palford, but others that really had a lot to do with your success or influenced you?
Well, I tell you, to answer that question, I'd fall back on some of the association members. They all knew a whole lot about more than I did, and I could always get help from them, and that was very helpful. Other than being a member, you had some teachers there with you. I was we poured all the DOT stuff in our area, and I was a technician going through all their classes, and just learned a whole lot.
I always like to ask for advice that you would give, with so many years in business, and some things never change, that. What would be some of the advice that you would give a young leader, a young manager, or anyone for that matter, coming into the ready-mix business from all those years? Just when you think about it, just some advice or counsel or sage wisdom, if you will.
Well, that's a hard question there. First of all, we get ready, because it's a different world. I'll tell you, start with your employees. They got to be drug-free and drive CDL drivers, and that's one of your upsets going to affect you there. And then be ready to handle the amateur builders, contractors, because they need all the help they can get, and they don't think you know anything. But it's a good business. It's a fair living, and anybody can get into it is going to enjoy it.
It's exciting. There's never a dull moment, is it, Bobby?
You got that right. Never. You always got some kind of excitement.
Well, let me ask you this. What can you think of I'm not being fair to you. You haven't had any chance to even think about some of this stuff, but while I've got you, are there any big challenges that problems that you had to solve back when you were in the business that come to mind, something that you're proud of, a project, or just anything of interest like that?
Well, one job right off the top of my head is a big freezer warehouse. You had to have the concrete to meet certain specs for the temperature and all. And you got a water cement ratio that goes in a mixed concrete. And the finisher, he liked to run it to where he wanted it to go, not carry it down there. And that was a big problem because the concrete didn't meet the specs after he added 100 gallons with every load that came in there.
Wow.
And of course, they tried to put it on me, but with the help of the association and the help of the suppliers, we solved that problem. So if I didn't have that help, I'd have had a mess.
You know, we were talking about it at lunch, the risk and exposure to being a ready-mix operator. It's unbelievable. You've got credit risk, you've got workman's comp, you've got safety. There are just so many ways that you can get in trouble, aren't there, Bobby?
Yes, sir. Especially dealing with the DOT, concrete's got to be a certain temperature. We add ice to it, and that creates a big problem. Also, you get out there, 5 loads of concrete. Nope, this ain't no good. It's 97 degrees. We can't have it. That's just some of the problems you have.
So, Bobby, tell us, since you've sold to Scruggs, and it sounded like from what Rusty said, you stayed on for a little bit after that sale, and then what? What did you do after?
Well, they asked me to stay on for a year or so because of my relationship with the area that I was in. But I didn't like somebody telling me what to do. That's hard to do, and I know the right and the wrong, but I work for them now, so that was kind of a different situation. And when you're in the ready-mix concrete business, when a decision has to be made, you got to make it right then, not 2 days later. And another thing is dealing with people. If we got a problem, solve that problem at that moment. Don't put them off. Don't call them back. You take care of it, and it won't be a problem. If you don't take care of it, it's going to be a big problem. So I don't know if that's important or not. But
I think it's still relevant.
Yeah.
So since you've been totally retired, what do you do for fun, or what have you done for the last what has it been, 10 years maybe?
Yeah, close to that. I have never thought I'd get there, but I'm there. Now I'm worried about the government taking my Social Security check. I don't need to be in there, but I enjoy. I had a house at Fernandina. I fished a lot, and I play golf, and I like to do yard work. So I stay busy and stay out of my wife's way.
And I think you took a call just before the interview. Have you bought a new lawnmower? Is that what I understand?
Yep, and that wasn't welcome at the house. I can tell you, she says you don't need a new lawnmower. I said, well, I did. I thought I did.
Well, Bobby, I'm so glad to get to meet you, and especially hearing from Gus and Rusty, and it sure has been fun. And I appreciate you taking time driving up. How long of a drive is it from Waycross?
About an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's not full lane all the way.
That's not bad.
Right.
That's not bad. Well, we sure do. We appreciate you and being part of this project and bringing a little color into a little interest into this to the story that I did not know about Dixie Redi-Mix until now. So it's part of our legacy, and I'm so grateful to meet you, Bobby.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure, and like I say, the Georgia Concrete Association is a fine organization.
Well, thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate that. Take care.
Okay. Talk to you later.